We have here's the rabbit trail, and we're going to go ahead and make us a toss pole set, and I'll go ahead and film that after I get started here. When you make a set like this using this pole, you can use it year after year after year. If you didn't have wire, this would be the ultimate set to make, because when the rabbit's hanging, it wouldn't be able to chew out. Even if all you had was twine to make the snare, the rabbit can't chew out while he's hanging. So hopefully I'll come back here in a day or two and show you a caught rabbit. Now, an easy way to do it would be just to right there where the rabbit goes underneath that pole. I could just hang a snare, and it would catch him and it would kill him. However, the rabbit would take longer to be dispatched, and it would also be subject to mice coming and eating it. So I like the toss pole. Okay, all for now. We'll come back and check this later. Set of coyote tracks. Up here we have a wolf snare. Wolves like to travel the trails, and so do the moose. So by putting a pole up like that, it'll discourage the moose from getting into your snare. Yeah, I think you can see it. But the wolves will walk right underneath there, and they'll get caught. Some of the newer snares that we make have a little piece of metal in them. It's a breakaway, so if you do catch a moose in a snare, it allows the moose to totally undo the snare. So it's a good system of tying up snares here, though. Quick and easy to set. Number 9 wire, and I make these little swivel things there, and you can see this snare set's nice and round. It's just waiting for a wolf. Okay, here we have another rabbit trail, and I just wanted to pause and show you this, because right there the rabbit goes through that little opening. His trail goes through there. That would be an ideal place to put a snare. It's already fenced off naturally. All you'd have to do is just hang a snare, put a pole up above it maybe just to anchor the snare. But that would get you a rabbit overnight. Nice little trail coming through the woods here. Going off that way. Okay, here we have another wolf or coyote snare. Just made a little trail jagging off of my main trail here. You see the pole leaning up against a tree there. Underneath it is a snare. I don't know if you can see that or not, but hopefully you can. And so it's a good way to make sets. You don't have to make them right on your trail this way. You just have little trails going off here or there. Usually places where I've seen wolf tracks or coyote tracks in the past. I'll just make these sets. Have another trail going off this direction. I haven't set anything on it yet, but as you can see, the main trail goes off this direction. All right. Okay, this This place right here is going to catch me a coyote. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a snare hanging in there. The fact that you can't see it is probably good, because it's really camouflaged in well. Had a coyote cross in here now 3 times, and it's an established trail for him. So next time he comes back through here, probably within a week or so, I'll have him. This is his trail right here. Sorry about that, I had to change my battery. So if this coyote does come back again, and he most likely will, he's been through here 3 times in 3 weeks. These are his tracks going in this direction. And waiting for him down there. Now, see if I can see it. Now waiting down right about in there, right in the middle, is a snare. Well camouflaged. I always access the snare from the side, never walk on their trail. Because I don't want them to know I've been in there. And then over here is an area that he's come through before too, right between those trees. And you'll see I've got a little surprise waiting for him right there. Another snare. He goes right between those trees. Ideal place to snare because the trees themselves kind of camouflage the snares. Alright, head on up the trail here and see what we see. Back in the old days, before snow machines were so prevalent in this country up here, central Alaska, the old timers used to snowshoe their trap lines. And they'd use traps close to home, and but they used a lot of snares because snares are light, easy to carry, and they do work very effectively for catching wolves and coyotes and just about anything. As you establish your snowshoe line, a lot of them would have trails 30 miles long, and they'd have cabins every 6-8 miles, and they'd go up to the one end, spend a day or two, and then start heading back home again. And they would usually skin the animals right on the spot unless they were close to a cabin, just to avoid from having to carry so much weight. But snares are very light, easy to carry. You know, you can carry a dozen of them and you hardly even know they're there. And like I said, they're very effective. Once again, you can see this set. I've had a moose come right through here. And if that pole wasn't there, he probably would have turned and went down the trail, and he probably would have tangled up in that snare hanging right there. But because there's a pole across the trail, it encourages them to go around, where the wolves and coyotes, they can go right underneath the pole and hopefully get tangled up in my snare. Okay, back on how to snare rabbits. I chose this little trail here just to show you there's actually 3 good places to make rabbit snares. The first one would be right there. You could tie it off to that tree and use those little leaning poles, those little bushes, to kind of support your snare, and just hang it right there. Pretty much guides them right in there with what's there. You could put a few sticks on the sides just to help guide them, but really not needed. Next place, he goes right underneath that fallen tree there. Another good place to hang a snare. And then the third place, back in there, he goes right beside that tree. You could tie off to that tree, hang a loop off to the side, and you'd have them. No toss poles needed. So Snaring rabbits is pretty easy. This is kind of some classic ways to make the set though. It's always nice when they go underneath something like that. Makes it easy to snare them. Okay. Okay, we're back. The snowshoe rabbit has a long history of being a survival food and even a staple for the peoples of Alaska, Canada. When Lieutenant Allen made his historic trek through the Copper River Valley and the Tanana and out the Yukon, he went from Cordova clear above the Arctic Circle and then went out the Yukon River. His expedition was actually longer than the Lewis and Clark expedition. They're probably covering more rugged country, fighting mosquitoes and just very, very rough country with very few trails. He learned, they stopped off at Chitina, Alaska, and he learned from the native peoples there what to eat, how to eat it. The old timers used to have a saying that if you eat rabbits, even if you ate them every day, that you'd starve to death because there's no fat in them. But the native peoples learned that if you eat the whole rabbit, and I'm talking brains and intestines, that you'll get vitamin C from the intestines. You won't get scurvy, and you can get fat from the brains. And so by being wasteful, the old timers were actually starving themselves. So Lieutenant Allen and Glenn, they learned from the natives how to subsist off of the land and how to stay alive, mostly from the natives at Chitina. So maybe tomorrow I'll go back out there and check that rabbit snare, and if I get something I'll make another video. But until then, thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe if you haven't already. And Chinan means thank you in Athabascan. Chinan.